Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Highruler, and today's video is going to be talking about Dragon Ball The Breaker. Now, since the beta ended last month, and of course with Battle Hour next month, we're kind of in this middle period here waiting for more information. Well, we have a little bit of information here that we can dissect and go through because 4Gamer, which is a Japanese gaming website, actually had a email kind of interview with Yosuke Hara, who is a producer on the title, and there was a lot of information here specifically about game balance and pay to win that I think is very pertinent to the discussion around Dragon Ball The Breakers. Now, what we're going to do, guys, we're going to go through some of the more relevant questions and talk about them, but I will link the whole thing in the description for anyone who wants to go and read it themselves. So the first question here that, is really going to be talked about is kind of like, did the expectations exceed, stuff like that. And they're saying they got a lot of good, valuable feedback and they had a lot of positive opinions, which for me is great because I think the game was fun. I definitely think there's some things that they have to work on with the game. Here's one of the things that, personally I think that needs to be worked on, right? So there were many opinions and requests regarding the game balance between the Raider and the Survivor, how to show the purpose and operability, and the improvement of the Raider's priority function. The development team is currently scrutinizing/examining the specific details of the adjustments that we would like to report to you once the policy is decided. Basically, they're working around some of the feedback, and once they figure it all out, they'll kind of let people know, right? So, fair. Now, a good question here by 4Gamer. In the closed beta test, there was an overwhelming difference in the abilities of survivors and raiders, and in most cases, we saw the sight of survivors being killed without any help. I think it's rare for an asymmetrical game to be so one-sided. This is something I really harped on a lot because it seemed like, at least from my gameplay perspective, it seemed like survivors were just getting murdered, like absolutely murdered. And we're not talking like, a little bit ways into the game. It seemed like you were like 2 minutes in, a minute 30 in, and you're already getting murdered, right? It just seemed like it was overwhelmingly in the Raiders' favor at that point, which I think most people would have that understanding from if they played the beta. But, I did see a lot of people say that later on, survivors were doing well, but I think very overwhelmingly, at least in my case, anecdotally, it was definitely the survivors being murdered. Now, Mr. Hara says, it is true that the Raiders' winning percentage was high in the first half of the closed beta session, and I think that many of the survivors felt that it was overwhelmingly disadvantageous. I think that this is because the purpose of the survivor and the way showing the way around are not enough in the closed beta, and there are many parts that are difficult to understand. However, at the end of the closed beta, there were many scenes where the Raider side lost because the survivor's understanding deepened and the cooperation became stronger. Therefore, as a future revision policy, we'd like to make play on the survivor side easier to understand and then balance both the Raider and the survivor, which, I mean, I guess I can't hate that answer, right? So they're saying as player knowledge grew, survivors were, kind of taking that winning percentage of the Raiders and kind of, hacking at it essentially, right? Which is, I guess, okay. So I guess their solution is, make survivors easier to understand. Hopefully that will help the player onboarding, and then from there, then you can balance the game out, which I guess is pretty fair, right? If that's what they think the solution is, fair, but I mean, I would have to see how that plays out once the game is released, right? Or maybe another beta session, for example, right? So, I mean, it remains to be seen if that solution will work, but I will say just kind of seeing it or kind of seeing them talk about it, I will say that does seem to be fair. So then the next thing that 4Gamer asked that I'm gonna, kind of zone in on is about the payments, right? So 4Gamer says the charge format for the service has not been disclosed, but what are you planning? Also, in closed beta, there is a gacha in the game and survivor skills can be obtained from trans balls and skins. What item billing is involved in game balance? If the skill is too strong, the billing amount will be directly linked to the winning percentage, but how do you balance this area, right? So basically, obviously this is Google translated, so there is going to be a little bit of broken between Japanese and English, but the idea is that there's gacha in the game, and will the skills kind of translate into like a good price? Like a good skill will be a higher price, and will some of these skills be needed in order to be the best that you can be, right? Pay to win for that example, right? So Mr. Hara says, currently, this work assumes the sale of affordable software and item billing. Also, regarding skills, I would like to prepare a unique one so that the various dramas will be born during the game. But the balance is not to make the skills directly linked to victory, such as I cannot win without this. We are aiming for adjustments. So, I mean, he's basically saying there that, obviously nothing's been decided yet in terms of, what they're doing. But obviously he wants to make cool skills that will be unique so that you go, oh, that's like really cool. I want that, but not obviously overpowered enough where it's like, I need that, right? It's more of a want, not a need. So, I mean, good luck to them. But I mean, the thing about gacha games is that gacha games are kind of they incentivize you to feel like you need it, right? Like they work on that kind of, I don't want to, I guess predatory might be the word, but they definitely work on the side of like, you need to have this, and this is shiny and it's great and you want it, and here's how much it is, and you get low rolls for it. It's like it's all there to be like, get it, try and get it, and maybe you'll get it. And if you do get it, great, here it is, have fun with it, right? So remains to be seen what they're going to do with this. But that's one of my biggest skepticisms with the game. Like, pay to win and gotcha games, mix those two together, and you have the potential for a very, very messy situation when it comes to your monetization. So I hope we see them kind of take a more fair route when it comes to that stuff, but remains to be seen at this point what they're going to do with it. So moving on, we have 4Gamer asking, what direction do you aim for in future game balance? Is there an index such as the ideal winning percentage ratio between the Raiders side and the Survivor side? Mr. Hara says, in asymmetrical action games like this one, I think that will change greatly depending on the playing proficiency of the users. Fair. It will be a little fluffy answer, but we will actively listen to the opinions of users before and after the release and continue to adjust the balance so that either the Raider or the Survivor is not too advantageous/disadvantageous. I would like to go to there. So that's actually a fair answer, because I think when you look at a lot of asymmetrical multiplayer games right now, there's always a flip-flop between like, the killer and the survivors, right? And it's always about how do you balance that out, right? Dead by Daylight, which is the biggest one, has always had this flip-flopping back and forth, right? It's like the seesaw. It goes from one side to another. And there's always conversations about how do you balance that out? How do you make that fair for both sides? And a lot of it comes down to is like, small tweaks here and there, big tweaks here and there. It really does come down to like, taking in feedback and, not just being reactive, but proactive as well, right? So, that's obviously going to be one of the things that we'll have to wait and see. And like they said, right, apparently their goal is to kind of get the onboarding process a little bit better for Survivor players and then go from there. So obviously we got to see what that's going to turn out to be, and then, wait and see how that all works out. And I mean, that's really it, guys, when it comes to some of the main talking points of this interview, right? There's some things about like smartphone development. They're not making it for phones. There's some things about like what other villains will you do, or raiders. And, they didn't really mention anybody. So, I mean, there isn't really a lot of information there in terms of the meat and the bones, right? A lot of that stuff we're going to have to wait for Battle Hour for. But in terms of kind of getting an idea of where their monetization is going to go, right? In terms of the balance, I think these are great things to kind of start talking about now, because I can't imagine this game is far off, right? I really can't. Now, it could be the case that this game is still 6 months out. Well, I mean, that's fair. That really could be the case. But I mean, I would have to think that this game is closer than we think it is, right? So once again, guys, just a little bit of an update there, because I know we haven't really had a lot of things with regards to the breakers. And honestly, like I said, I mean, the monetization stuff really could go one way or another. It's hard to say. I mean, the balancing thing, I really kind of think their balancing might actually be okay in terms of the onboarding of players. But yeah, the gotcha system, the skills, and everything to do there, like it could go very poorly very quickly, or it could kind of turn itself around and be okay. I mean, there's just no way to know until we know at that point, right? So hopefully this is a nice little update for you guys. I'll put the link in the description below if you guys want to read it, and hopefully we get some juicy information next month at Battle Hour. Now, if you guys want more Dragon Ball The Breakers coverage, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I can't wait to play this game with you guys, hopefully one day soon. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out the channel, liking the video, comment. If you please do that, that would greatly help. And I will see you guys later on today. Enjoy the rest of your day and night. Take care of yourselves. Later, guys.